Would all the TPC members please take your seats? Thank you. If all TPC members would please come and take your seats. Something must be happening tonight because we have such a large crowd out there. All right, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Transition Planning Commission. And as we always do, let's start this meeting with a moment of silent reflection, considering and asking for discernment in the very important decisions that we are charged to make. All right, we do have guests with us tonight, and I'd like to welcome you first off. The mayors of the municipalities will have you introduce yourself a little later, and also the mayor of my municipality, which is Memphis, Mayor Wharton also. If you will allow us, we have just a small bit of business to take care of, and then we'll move to the part of the program that would involve you. You have received the minutes of the last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any additions or deletions or changes in these minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. I'd like to take just a moment in the chair's report to congratulate Jeter Elementary School, Miss Carter, who's in Millington. It was always great to read about awards in our schools, and Jeter was awarded the Blue Ribbon School in the state and will then go on to compete nationally. Very, very good. Congratulations to Jeter. There you go. Now, I know I'm going to have to read the paper very carefully because I'm sure there are other awards that are coming along, and I'm going to have to catch those. I would also like to inform the Commission that the second meeting that I will be having along with the two superintendents and the board chair, Billy Orgel, with Commissioner Kevin Huffman, will be on March 5th. So he has been true to his offer that he would try to meet with us monthly, and we think that's going to be very beneficial as we move forward with our plan to be able to have Commissioner Huffman aware of the work that we're doing. Want to remind you that the BEP presentation will be on March the 22nd. This is one that we had to move from tonight. Just wanted to remind you of that. And we do have we're going to move we've moved the committee reports down, which is good. We may not even have committee reports, but we'll get to that point at that time. Okay, at this point, I would like to welcome our guests, the mayors of, I'm going to miss this, Arlington, Germantown, Bartlett, Collierville, Millington, and Lakeland, and Memphis. We're very happy to have you. What we will do, we've invited you to present to us around the plans that you have been looking at and the and what you are considering in terms of education. And after you have made your presentation, we'll open this up for some questions from the TPC. We're glad to start this dialogue, and I'm going to actually ask our TPC member, Mayor McDonald, to start and to, if you could, Mayor McDonald, I think it would be good to have everyone introduce themselves because I'm not sure everyone knows everyone around the table, and then just carry on your presentation as you wish, and then I will facilitate the questions.
We'll start with the mayor of the largest municipality first, then.
Thanks for inviting me. While the city of Memphis has no particular legal role in this, I would simply say that we recognize the distinction between schooling and education. Education is a much broad enterprise, and everybody in government, big or small, city or county, has a responsibility, perhaps moral, certainly moral, if not legal, and that the City of Memphis looks forward to working with everybody in Shelby County with respect to seeing that all our children receive the best education possible without regard to whatever the schooling situation may look like. I want to thank all of you, Mayor Luttrell, for your leadership. It's a very difficult and challenging situation. The volunteer members giving of your time, it's all for a great cause, and in the end, I'm sure we'll all come out winners because in the end, we will have helped our children. With that, I thank you for
Mayor
allowing
Wharton.
me to attend. I will have to leave about 6:15.
Okay.
So please.
Mayor Carmichael?
Yeah, Mayor Scott Carmichael, City of Lakeland, Tennessee.
Mayor Linda Carter, City of Millington.
I'm Stan Joyner, Mayor of the Town of Collierville.
Sharon Goldsworthy, Mayor, City of Germantown.
Mike Wisman, Town of Arlington, and for those of y'all who don't know, I'm also on the Unified School Board, former member of the former Shelby County School Board. So.
What we propose to do tonight, we've kind of taken some different topics. Scott and Linda were not sure that they were going to be able to be here or how long they were going to be able to stay. So we've divided the topics between four of us. And the first presenter will be Stan Joyner from Collierville.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. And let me extend my thanks to the TPC for extending this invitation to us to come out and address you this afternoon. I don't think that any of our presentations are going to be that long, but we do have some things, as we've broken these things out, that we did want to share with you based on our feedback that we're receiving from the residents of each one of our municipalities. I am going to speak with you on local control, basically, and one of the fundamental fabrics of all great communities is the great public education system that they have. I'm certain that all the municipalities here and the suburban communities as well as the city of Memphis have benefited from having outstanding local schools. I know that the excellent schools in Collierville have certainly been an attraction to residents who have moved to our area as well as businesses that have moved to our area. And I think traditionally, as I look back on the history of Collierville, our schools have truly been, over the years, having grown up there, the true heart of our community. And so we are very passionate about the way that we feel about those things. I think also that it's only natural that a community with strong common bonds and values will want to have the ability to directly shape and influence the educational environment of our children. Now, as a matter of principle, I think the leadership of all the suburban municipalities generally endorses an organization that seeks to decentralize bureaucracies and move services closer to the end user. Specifically, we believe that 4 factors and associated benefits will support decentralization of a large school district. The first factor is localization, and the benefit of localization is increased control. Government at its best is when it's closest to the people that it serves. The educational environment is enhanced when the layers of large districts are reduced. The second factor is transparency, and the benefit of transparency is trust. Locally elected leaders provide more accessibility into the decision-making related to school districts. The third factor is engagement, and the benefit there is in participation. The parents of in the town of Collierville are very engaged in their children's education. They seem to have a sense of ownership in that education and in those schools. Closer accessibility to administrators increases the likelihood of interaction, input, and influence. And access in a small town happens, let me assure you. The fourth and final factor that I think we all agree on is efficiency. And the benefit of efficiency is increased productivity. Remote centralized administrative functions inevitably succumb to inefficient bureaucracies. Our concern is based on the data that the large school system will inevitably result in reduced accountability and a decline in the overall quality of education available for our children. Many case studies and volumes of research indicate that smaller school districts are more efficient, and most importantly, directly reflect the common values and the shared life experiences within the community. Because of that unique quality, there is a concern that the small number of children that are in the suburban schools and communities will be lost in the arena of the larger school district. I know when I think of Collierville, we have roughly 7,500 students. In a room of 150,000 students, they'll never be seen, and that's truly a concern to us. The responsibility for providing a quality education system may be the responsibility of elected leaders, but the effort is driven by the support and the endorsement from the community that we serve. Our constituents want to form municipal school districts that offer influence, accessibility, accountability, and efficiency. This past Monday night at our Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting, the town of Collierville passed on first reading an ordinance that will call for a referendum on forming municipal school districts. We'll have the second reading and a public hearing on that item or on that ordinance on the 27th of February. And then we have a special call meeting scheduled for March the 6th where we'll have the third and final reading. That will move us toward a referendum on May the 10th. I think the other communities, and I'll let them speak for themselves, are following somewhat the same timeline on that. There may be a little bit of difference there. It's our responsibility to respond to the voice of the people that we serve. We're moving forward at a pace that allows us to be in the position to do what's best for our communities.
Thank you, Mayor Joyner. I'm going to talk just a little bit about the financial accountability issue. I could just read you this. This is Bartlett's, and, it wouldn't take very long. Just kidding. The request we made of SES, all of our communities, was to give us the feasibility from a financial and legal and operational point of view. As has been well publicized, the consultants came back with an opinion that in all of our cases that was possible. For some, it might mean either a property tax or a sales tax. For others, it would require both. But it was financially feasible. We looked at all aspects, including special education and transportation, within these models that they've given. And that's just what this is. The exact numbers, and obviously our constituents are asking, well, what's the exact number? And until we get a school board in place and have a superintendent in place, some of those questions we just can't answer until we know what the system will look exactly like. But in the case of Bartlett, for instance, 15 cents on a $175,000 home would be about $66. That's somewhere in that range. The half-cent sales tax be 50 cents on every $100 purchase that you make. So our citizens have indicated to us that it is financially they don't have any fear about what we're doing. In fact, when we started this conversation back in November and December, we were using numbers like, instead of 15 cents, we were using numbers like 50 and 75 cents and $1. And the citizens were still asking us to move forward with a referendum so that they could make a choice about the school systems. So we have our presentation to us assume that we would be educating the children that are currently going into the buildings that they're now being served in. Based on conversation that was held in a committee meeting last night for the unified system, perhaps those board members don't want us to educate their children based on some of the conversation there. Either way, we're prepared to be able to move forward, either just educating the children within our city limits or entering into educational agreements with others. We realize the cost of maintenance. We'll have to start capital funds immediately because there'll need to be some repairs done on some buildings and some additions made to some buildings. So the financial piece of it depends on which one of the communities you're looking at. Obviously, for Lakeland right now, they don't have a property tax. So they're only looking at one avenue right this second, but that doesn't mean they won't look at the possibility if they want to educate their children themselves. They only have an elementary school, and if you look at municipal school districts around the state, there are municipal school districts that only do elementary education. There are others that do elementary, middle, and then they send the high school kids to the county school. So there's all kinds of patterns in Tennessee on municipal schools and what grade levels they deal with. So the cost of doing business will certainly depend on what each of the communities decide ultimately to do in terms of educational opportunities.
Well, both mayors covered a lot of ground already, so I'm just going to kind of throw a few things out there. I'm supposed to talk about student stability, and kind of the reason we're here is the difference of policies or the difference of governing the way systems have run in the past. I know you guys got an incredible challenge moving forward, and so does the Unified Board. But the philosophy and the stability that we're talking about is the neighborhood school concept, basically. I work for the city of Memphis. I go in homes all over the city every day. And I think the city school board members or the city administration can know that some of the issues that we have to deal with just the city policies and some of the things that I see, and I know Mayor Wharton sees, will make a lot of people cry. People don't realize what's going on out there. But when it comes to stability, what I'm talking about is there's a lot of transient students inside the city limits of Memphis, and that's a little different than what the neighborhood concept of the former Shelby County Schools tried to incorporate. So those type of things are the things that, moving forward, are kind of why the municipalities are looking at this option, because this is the reason why we want to make sure that we keep hearing every child needs a great education, and I don't think I could agree with that more than anybody else, and that's why I'm doing the jobs that I'm doing. But a one policy necessarily for 150,000 students necessarily may not cover what's best for students in Binghamton or Fraser or Bartlett or Germantown, and that's where a large system can lose that focus on student education, activities, curriculum, fine arts, technology, whichever. Let me just kind of tell you a few things real quick, because I know we'll probably get more answers when we go back and forth with questions. But just in the short time, the last 4.5, 5 months that the Unified Board's been together, Shelby County Schools, when the board that I've been a part of, we made a big point for student recognition. And I'm not saying Memphis City Schools didn't, but that was a big part of our meetings every month. Until last month, we have done very little student recognition with this new board. It's hard to do things like that, and that is what children look forward to. They look forward to whether it's a cheerleading team that wins nationals, a band team that wins a competition, an art contest, those type of issues. We don't have time with a large board and that many students and trying to keep everything incorporated to where we're making sure we include everybody. You can't really have meetings like that. And to a child, that is a huge part of moving forward with their education and where they want to go and the recognition they receive. So I feel that those types of things are already being lost. Not saying they can't be brought back, but they're already being lost in this short amount of time. Also, when it comes to just the student growth trends as far as rezoning or the neighborhood school concept again, we just want to make sure that we try to keep children going to the same schools as they move up through a process. And even with Shelby County Schools, I think a lot of people that are involved with Shelby County Schools think Shelby County Schools is too big. 47,000 students is a big school system. We know that 25 is probably optimal. You hear different numbers around the country, but 25 is probably optimal. So the size of a school system affects not only our students, our teachers, our parents, and our parental involvement, of course, has been great. And I think we've already, even though we're moving forward with issues, we are losing some focus on places where we need to be doing right now, and that's education.
Mayor Joyner and Mayor Wisman have provided great segues for what I would like to talk to you about, and that is about opportunity. We've pretty much covered some of the reasons why we are pursuing municipal school districts and some of the details as well, and pretty much the things we're talking about apply well across all of our communities, although each of us will certainly claim uniqueness in the things that we do as communities and the opportunities that we already experience as municipal governments. I think it's important to recognize that our suburban communities are still in development mode, but I would also suggest to Mayor Wharton and others that all cities are constantly in evolution. They are ever changing. And whether it's by annexation or by raw land or whatever it is, we are all pretty much in that mode of continuing to change and be something different than we've been in the past, or being more than we've been in the past. At the same time as this is happening, particularly in the suburban communities, I think all of us are very intent on sustainability. What will we be for the long term? And that really goes to understanding the vision of our communities. Across the board, I think if you interviewed people in Eads or Bartlett or Orange Mound or wherever it might be in Shelby County, we would find that we all share certain values that are important to us in terms of what we expect from the community and the environment in which we live and work and play and visit and such. I think most of us, if we have not formalized the vision for our communities, we nevertheless have a common understanding across our populations of what they expect us to be all about. That vision tends to be all-encompassing, and it's very hard, I think, to separate from within a vision as we look at such things as public safety and public infrastructure and public amenities and everything, to somehow set completely aside, in many ways, public education, because it seems as fundamental and as critical to the quality of life in our communities as any of those other factors. And I think that as we approach this discussion, we see a tremendous opportunity to make public education an integral part of our individual communities. What we have now is access to good public education. That's been the tradition and history of our experience with the Shelby County schools. What we would look forward to as municipal school districts and municipal governments is the opportunity to really impact and influence and share a common vision which we can all contribute to in our particular ways. It's not as if we want to run the schools from City Hall. We know that that's a responsibility of a school board. Nevertheless, when we look at what we do at City Hall and what we expect those who run our schools to do, we do recognize we're all serving the same constituency. And the things that that constituency does is constantly interwoven. You cannot do anything in Germantown without figuring out what the school schedule is. Try to schedule anything during a school break. It doesn't happen. In the same way, many of the decisions we make at City Hall really do contribute currently to the way in which our schools are able to provide services and to deliver quality public education to all of our students. And in some ways, it ranges all the way from when a superintendent or a principal picks up the phone to call the mayor, or vice versa, about sharing facilities. In our particular case, and I know this is true in several of the communities, it's city government is providing the school resource officers. And we do it because we have taken responsibility for the safety of students during the time that they spend on our campuses within our community, whether they live there or not. We take care of that. We take care of playing fields. Sometimes we build them. We often maintain them. We have other agreements, sometimes not in the form of contracts, but simply in the way you get things done in a small town. And that is very supportive because the people that we're serving from City Hall are the same ones whose children are served by the schools. And there's a great relationship that exists now, but it is one that is limited in many ways. The opportunity to formalize that with the relationship that exists between city government and a school board just has great potential, we believe. We don't think our vision would be complete if this were not an integrated one. Each of us can identify additional opportunities. Sometimes in the midst of all of this, as we look at the challenges of developing a system, and certainly all of us have enormous respect for the task that has been assigned to the TPC. We can tell you we kind of experience challenges like that on the course that we are choosing to follow. But nevertheless, there are moments when you can kind of get excited about the possibilities that come about, partially because of the ability of a city government to do things in conjunction and in relationship with another entity. Sometimes it comes from simply the size, the ability, as Mayor Joyner mentioned, of what can happen in a community where there's not much distance between those who are served and those who are doing the serving. It makes a huge difference if you have eliminated the layers of bureaucracy, and I'm sorry, that's exactly what they are. We know about bureaucracies. For all of our efforts to do otherwise, and I think all of us have done leading edge things to change our sense of bureaucracy, because in a small town or smaller communities, you talk to the mayor at church and in the grocery store and at the gas station and wherever. And so the sense of linkage and the ability for people to get to the people who make the decisions, I think is really important. I think some of the things we have done in our communities, because we have the ability of nimbleness, of being able to be flexible because of our sizes, offers us some opportunities to bring those practices, many of them taken from the corporate sector. We can bring those, hopefully, to the discussion with the school board as to how it might administer and manage a school system. And I know that that's something that this group is very much about, is trying to figure out how to do it better. We already have some experience in that, and we think that it's very relevant as we would proceed toward forming a municipal school district.
In, I believe it was 1869, the city of Memphis decided to create a school system to better educate the children in that municipality. They decided in 2011 they no longer wanted to do that they wanted to educate their children in a different way. What we're asking is, now that we have decided as municipalities that we would like the opportunity to educate our children in a way that we see fit, and we would ask that we be given the same respect as municipalities as the city of Memphis was for those many years. With that, Madam Chairman, I'll turn it over to you all for questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. McDonald. Is this mic on? Mm-hmm. I would also like, if you will allow me, to recognize the Shelby County School Board Chair, whom I noticed just walked in or what has been here for a moment. Mr. Orgel, can you wave your hand? He doesn't want to be recognized. And are there other, I see Ms. Malad, I see Ms. George, I see, is Ms. Jones, Teresa Jones, who else is back? Chris Caldwell, just all the school board members back there. If you will stand up and wave at everybody. We appreciate your being here. Stephanie Gatewood, and there's Kevin Woods. Am I missing anybody? And, of course, we've got around the table Commissioner Pickler and Jones also. All right, at this point, thank you for your presentation, and I will recognize members of the TPC. If you have some questions of the mayors, if you'll just ask to be recognized, I will facilitate a question and answer. Ms. Avery.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. I would like to ask Mayor Carmichael if you are thinking about raising a tax in Lakeland.
Well, at this time, everything is on the books. We're considering everything we have to do in order to establish this. 3 things that are going to run your taxes more than anything else: police, fire, and schools. So if we do take over a municipal school, and that will be that the citizens vote on it through referendum, that this is what they want to do and they're willing to pay for it, then this might push us into the realm of having to actually establish a property tax for the first time.
Thank you. Madam Chair, if I might, I would like to ask Ms. Carter, Mayor Carter, the same question.
We have not as yet received our report back from the consultants, and so we're kind of in a holding pattern. The citizens have expressed a desire, but not formally, and we have not held any formal meetings. However, we have had our first reading on the ordinances that are required. So until we get that back, I don't know. As far as raising the taxes, our intention is to allow the citizens to vote to determine whether or not they want to raise the taxes.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Avery. Next, Mr. Paget.
Thank you.
This is one of your Shelby County school principals.
No need. Thank you so much. Just really quick. Have you guys sort of identified the one primary thing that your constituents say as the reason for wanting to separate? If you were to list just one thing, what would it be, or could you rank them with a bullet list of 3?
I would say local control.
I would echo that. It's something we've heard at every town hall meeting, at every opportunity, and I think it really goes to looking at the large unified board, understanding that the number probably will settle down around 13 or whatever the county commission determines. Nevertheless, looking at that in terms of how many people will be representing the suburban communities and understanding that that's not a majority by any means. And we all understand that. It's one man, one vote, and we're obviously very good with that. That's the way it works in this country. But nevertheless, the ability to influence the vision, the expectations, the accountability, all of those things we mentioned earlier, is simply seen as far more probable when you elect your neighbors or folks across your own town to make those decisions on your behalf.
Mr. Paget, are you?
I've got a list, but I'll use it.
Okay, well, let's
throw one out.
Mr. Pickler.
Thank you. As many of you know, this commission has been empowered with coming up with a structure. And I know that I chair, along with Mr. Jones, a committee on looking at administrative governance structures. And we definitely are hearing what's coming from the suburban community. I guess the question I would ask you is this. In hearing the things, especially Mayor Joyner, that you talked about localization and transparency and engagement and efficiency and the issue of local control, would it be your opinion that if, in fact, this Transition Planning Commission was able to come up with a structure that addressed these issues, then would this be something that you would take back to your community and engage in serious conversations as an option to municipal districts, or has the train left the station so far that that's not possible?
Well, is this on? Okay. One of the things for the timeline that we've set, which is an aggressive timeline, is one because you're charged with, I think, giving your plan to the combined school board late June, something like that, and then the combined school board will take that and they will study it, and they will keep parts that they like possibly, and they'll discard other parts that maybe they don't like. And so it will be, well into the latter part of this year before the municipalities will know what your plan is going to be. And then after that, of course, it goes to the state, if I understand that correctly.
I will correct that in just a moment for you, if you'll go ahead.
The timeline that we've been given basically is to work toward that August of 2013 timeline, because that's when we see the Chapter 1 saying that that's when the systems will be merged. In the meantime, we've got to, after the referendum, assuming that it's a positive vote on the referendum, then we've got to notify the Election Commission that we want to elect a school board. And I think that early voting on the special referendum on May the 10th would begin April the 20th. So there's not a lot of time, to get that done. Then qualifying, based on the notes that I made, qualifying, I believe, for the school board would be the filing deadline for November the 6th election is August the 16th. Okay, so to elect that school board, we need to give them time. Now, the first thing that they'll need to do, obviously, is hire a superintendent. And then after they hire the superintendent, we're putting together a municipal school district to be ready in August of 2013. That's the tight timeline. Not knowing what your plan is going to be and not knowing what's going to come out, we'll lose a year, basically. The other part of that is that plan, what parts of that plan survive, through the combined school board, will be good possibly for one election. But after that first election, or maybe not even then, that plan can change. And so what our question to you would be is, if you go with the autonomy plan, which I've seen, it's not been thoroughly explained to me, but if you go with that, how autonomous is that autonomy that you're going to be granting to us? That would be the question we would have of you.
So, Mr. Pickler, did you get your question answered?
Well, I heard the timeline.
Well, Mr. Pickler, do you mind if I kind of
please
add to that? I think to answer your question, I don't know. I'm not an attorney, so I can't tell you if the train has left. The train's left the station. I think that's fairly obvious while we're all sitting here. But I think everybody in here has had their first reading, which was explained, and so by around March 5th, March 6th, with all the municipalities, I think it's going to be final from the board of aldermen and mayor's standpoints, as far as it's going to a referendum May 10th. So you will know whether there's 4, 5, 6, however many go in that direction. So that part of it, yes. Now, as far as what other options are brought up, that's where I say I don't know if I'm not an attorney. I don't know, once that's set in motion, what can be changed, what can be amended, what options are moving forward. So I just want everybody to be aware that, like Mayor Carter said, they had their first reading.
But we haven't gotten a report.
But they haven't got their report. But I think everybody in here has had at least one reading, and I know Arlington's second reading is tomorrow night, second and final reading. So it'll be official most likely tomorrow night. So I just want to make that part clear.
All right. Others that would like to ask questions? Mr. Cates?
There you go, Steve.
I had two questions. Mayor Joyner was talking about, in a mega giant system, inefficiencies that you don't like, and I can understand that. But going the other way, would you think there's a point at which there's inefficiency in being too small? Do you have any worry about, as you go from part of 50,000 to your own size? Do you worry about that? That's the first question. Second question is for all y'all. What is Plan B? What if you lose your referendum? What are you going to do then?
Okay, I'll speak. I'll speak to the. What was the first question again?
Can it be too small?
Could it be too small?
Could it be too small? Based on the results that we've gotten back from the consultants, I think too small would be financially too small to support the system. That's not been in the report that I received back. One that is too small. I think it went down to 1,500 students. Is that what it was? That the state law requires, which would be very small. Town of Collierville is 75 plus, almost 7,600 students. We have 8 schools, so I would think that would make a very nice system. A small number of schools, but one that would be very, very manageable in a municipal system. The second part of that, Plan B, we hope y'all do a great job putting this together. We truly do. Because if we're stopped, obviously we'll become part of it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. whether it is something that I mentioned in the press yesterday about the charter school systems that have been bantered about a little bit, and whether that fits into a plan that this group puts together. Our automatic plan B is the unified system. And that's, to quote our chairperson, she said early on, we have to do something considering 150,000 children because we don't know. We don't know how many times we might be stopped before we would be able to enact a municipal school. So I would anticipate there is a strong possibility that we would be a part of the unified system to begin with, and that many of us would then continue to proceed to get past those other obstacles. But in the meantime, our children would be in this unified system or a charter school system that might or might not be a part of this.
And then what about the first part? Do you have any worry about, say it's special ed or transportation or food? Are there any aspects of
you do
the
lose
system that you worry about in Bartlett?
I don't, in terms of worrying about can we do it, no, there isn't anything that I don't think we can do. Do you lose some economies of scale? Yes, you do. And so we would look to partner with other school systems. They might be systems within Shelby County. They might be systems in Tipton County or Fayette County that have services that they provide very well. It might be that we privatize. Germantown does a great job every year looking at what is the cost of doing business inside the government versus private sector. And so we might take that model and compare those things. But worried that we won't be able to accomplish them, no. Do I believe we will lose some economies of scale initially? The answer for me is yes.
I would echo those comments as well for Germantown. I think that there are opportunities where we might lose economy of scale. On the other hand, I think that there is, using a word I used earlier, a nimbleness and the ability in a smaller community to be creative and innovative about how we get things done. We've demonstrated that in our local governments, and I think that those are lessons that can be applied to running the schools as well. As far as a Plan B, we've always understood that the alternative to the course that we are now pursuing is participation in the unified district. At this time, we prefer to set our sights on what we think is an optimum solution for our communities, and that is a municipal school district.
Anyone else? All right, I've got Ms. Bradshaw and then Mr. Hart.
Thank you, Mayors, for your presentation. Based on the feasibility study that your consultant submitted, it includes the usage of the buildings in their current state. Have you gotten an analysis of what would the actual cost be if you do not receive those buildings?
No, we really have not. We know what in the analysis back in the appendix section of ours. It tells what the average elementary school, middle school, and high school cost. So we can do the math if we were to have to replicate a certain number of buildings to determine that. But we believe there's precedent, we've said all along, where those buildings should be accessible to us as county residents and therefore not have to build new schools.
And so my second question is, and I'm not sure because I didn't get the answer from David Pickle's question, is there anything that could be included in the plan from the Transition Planning Committee that would satisfy you all in your need for on wanting local control that would entice you to be included in this process?
I would never say never, but it's not likely. I think the train has left the station for most of us. I think our community, if some of you were able to attend our meeting that we had in Bartlett a week and a half ago, 500 people there, 2 opposed, 498 in favor. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we're finding everywhere we go. So there is an excitement about having a municipal school that I think I don't know how, as a politician, you'd be able to stand in the way of that at this point.
Mr. Hart?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have only one, at this juncture, concern, and that is relative to a May the 10th election, because I feel like you're disenfranchising your citizens. Because until we put a plan on the table, what are they voting between? They're not making a choice. They're just affirming what people in the community have talked about. And I'm not going to the cost of a special election, but it appears to me with elections, this being an election year, there's plenty of opportunity to meet the goal of being to hire a superintendent. And that's, in the presentations I've been at, that's been the thing that y'all want to make sure you can do, if you have to, is hire the superintendent early in 13. So, to me, I would ask is perhaps this rush to justice May the 10th is, I guess, a negative statement all the way around on your citizens, on this body, on the state of Tennessee, on Shelby County government. And is there another alternative that would at least allow us to have a program on the table where the citizens, when they vote, will have an option between which direction they're going? Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'd like to make a comment on that. Not saying that two wrongs make a right, but we are up against a timeline compared to, I know what we've gone against. I understand what you're saying, and I respect the fact that we're finally talking about this, because I know this was one of the first questions that I asked Ms. Prescott when we sat down a couple months ago with the mayors. You know, are there any other alternatives besides a 150,000 student system? And once there was clarification, we started moving. So I applaud Chairman Prescott and Mayor Luttrell for getting us going in this direction. But I can also remember December of 2010, and I'm not trying to, I mean, what's done is done, but I can remember sitting in the Memphis City School Board auditorium with Mayor Wharton, Mayor Luttrell, Shelby County School Board, Memphis City School Board, and many of the county commissioners. And the Shelby County School Board had passed a resolution. I think both mayors had approved a resolution for everybody to kind of slow down and have discussions like we're having now. Unfortunately, we weren't up against a time frame then. We are now. It was the choice, and it was put to the voters and the voters of Memphis, and that's what they voted on. So we're kind of in that same predicament now. We're being pushed by not just our individual agendas. We're being pushed by our communities to move forward to do whatever is available to ensure the education of the students of not only the municipality, but the students that we educate now in our areas, our neighbors, you know, whether it's unincorporated rural reserve or Memphis City or whichever. That's what was being asked, even by those that aren't in our municipalities. It's not just the people from Arlington asking Arlington to do it. It's the people that live around it. Now, what happens with those children is out of our control, evidently, in some shape, form, or fashion. But we are being asked by them, too. This is what people are asking us to do. This is what people have been asking for an option ever since this kind of started in this direction. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
Okay. With all due respect to Mr. Hart, I think some of us who come from areas where referendums are commonly used in local government to make significant decisions, and that often occurs in other states where there are independent school districts, and the patrons of a district decide if they're going to put up a new building or if they're going to increase the millage rate for operation of schools. I don't see this, a referendum, even though we're not terribly accustomed to them in Tennessee, as being something that says you choose this or you choose this. What we are simply doing is asking our community if they are willing to undertake all the responsibilities and implications of creating our own schools. And I don't think there will be many voters who do not understand that if they say no, they are in effect casting a vote for a unified district. I think that will be fairly clear to everyone, as that appears to be the plan B that most of us would have in mind at this moment. So I would just respectfully take a different perspective, that we're not disenfranchising. This is one of those interesting times when instead of boards of mayor and aldermen making the decision on behalf of the whole community, we are taking it to the voters. And I think that's an important thing to recognize.
I would bring forward 2 points. I don't know whether to call you Commissioner Hart, Mr. Hart, Tommy. We've known each other a long, long time.
It was Tommy when we first met in '86.
That's right. That's right. But you served as the county commissioner, and you know full well that the discussion of special school districts and municipal school districts is not new. This didn't just come to the table after Martavius and Tamika made their proposal. That was not the first time we had talked about special districts or municipal districts. We've been talking about it for 30-plus years. So there's been a lot of effort to try to say this is a reaction. What it is an opportunity, as we see it, not a reaction. It's an opportunity we've been asking for years. Dr. Green asked in a meeting we had a couple of weeks ago where the executive committee agreed to allow us to come. He said, the one thing I want to know is why. Why are they doing this? And I said then, I don't know if I'm going to answer the question to satisfy him, but I'm going to answer the question. And when I look at our charter, item 26 under powers of the city says to establish schools, determine the necessary boards, officers, teachers required, therefore, and it goes on to talk about a complete educational system within the city. That's from like 1866. Now, in the 1980s, and then with the tiny town law finally passed, the state said, okay, we're not going to do any more of those right now. And so we were put on hold in order to accomplish that. Chapter 1 allows that door to reopen, which many of us, as I say, for 30 years have looked forward to. And so it is not something that requires us to wait. It's something we've been wanting to happen way before we ever got to this point. So it is not a negative or positive reaction to this body. Secondly, if there was a way where the judge and or the legislators would postpone the 2013 merger, I can speak as one of the mayors. I'd be more than willing then for us to slow ours down. But if you're merging 2013, you've got a timeline to deal with, and we have a timeline to deal with, and the only way we can see that we can get there is to start that timeline that was brought forward earlier. So if the judge wanted to say, okay, everybody, you need 2 more years to get this right, I'm on board with that as one mayor.
Let me just, I'm going to recognize the next person, but let me just clarify for a moment because we have a lot of people here, the calendar. We are working toward a 2013 merger date. Our commission does not have we set a deadline that would work for the 2 districts that we're working to merge. We've discussed it with them and recognized that plan needed to be approved and in hand by August so that they could responsibly have a full year to implement the plan, to work around their budgets. So that was a responsible decision that we made in terms of getting the plan to them on time. We will have our plan in first draft by mid-May. Is that correct, or is it mid-June? Mid-June, excuse me. By mid-June. Our timeline has been published throughout, and we will be rolling out recommendations, so you all will be able to see some of them as they come out. And just to, and certainly you, the mayors have asked for respect, and I give that to all of you. And I do believe that we all do what we think is best for our children. But just to reiterate, that I think that you all are looking at the need for 2 elections or 2 election dates, one for your referendum and one for your election of your school board. And there are elections in August and in November. So I think that is the concern perhaps that we're feeling, not that it would you would not have the chance to do exactly what you feel is best, because we recognize that as being a course that would be well taken. But if you could utilize the two dates that are in place, the August date and the November date, then we would indeed have a chance to have our full plan before the community. So just to kind of clear up the calendar on that, Mr. Mayor McDonald?
Yeah, Madam Chairman, trust me, we looked at that. We do not cherish the schedule we have. And we all looked at what's the dates that we have to do. And so we took the calendar and said, okay, if we've got to get a school board elected in November so that they can have a superintendent in January, to only have 8 months to put in place a school system, we took that date, November election date, and worked backwards. August doesn't work. Under our election cycles, there has to be a certain number of days for our candidates to pick up their petitions. And doing the referendum in August will not work with November. Trust me, if it would have, I think most of us would have done it.
Well, thank you for that explanation. I'm going to call on Mr. Jones, because I'll get back to you, Miss. Thank you, Mayor McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, mayors, for addressing the TPC. A thing that's been floated recently has been local control. But my question is, what type of efforts for local control were there before December 10th, 2010? There seemed to have been no efforts or no cries for local control until there was a unification process. So that would be my question, my first question.
I think the effort for local control was the special school district that Mayor McDonald was talking about, and I think you're fairly aware of how long that's been going on. So that's the effort for local control. Just because it's not municipal, the municipal was never really discussed prior to this. But it was. Well, I can't speak for the other ones, but I think the special district was that type of local control that you can somewhat. But I'll turn it over to my more experienced.
What a nice way of referring to those of us who've been around a little bit longer than everyone else. And actually, some of us have a history of going back 30, 35 years in experience directly with Shelby County Schools. And I think Mayor Wisman is exactly right. We have always supported, for as long as I've been around PTA and as an elected official, we have always supported the conversion of the Shelby County Schools to a special school district.
But that would not have created more local control.
No.
You would have
but we saw
still had 7
Okay.
School board members under a special and 7 under a Shelby County.
Okay. But we saw that as desirable for other reasons. This opportunity to then step forward with a municipal district gives us something that under a special school district, you're right, local control would not have been the central focus of why we wanted to do that. That probably had to do more with funding than anything else. Okay. And the ability to put from our communities additional funding into our schools. But nevertheless, we had just not seen the municipal district as a reasonable pathway. It wasn't open to us. There was no, while we occasionally got the discussion going in Nashville about reopening for special districts, the municipal district question simply was one that legislators did not respond to.
If I might just add a couple things there. As I understand it now, when the tiny town legislation came through back in 1998 and the annexation reserve areas were created, then a moratorium was placed on any new municipal schools or special school districts. So up until the Chapter 1, that moratorium was in place. So there was not a lot of push for that because on a local level, I felt like, since I had become mayor, that, well, it's not permitted by state law. And then thinking about, this is kind of tongue-in-cheek, so please appreciate it. If you talk to some of the principals in the Collierville schools, there's been a struggle for local control for a long time.
Thank you. The next question is, it was previously stated that we have access to good public education. My question would be, how would that change in a unified plan?
Well, we don't know for sure that it would, Martavius. It's the unknown factor. We just firmly believe, and we have, it's the same argument that we made up to the election in November on consolidation. This is the very same argument we made then. Smaller works better. We believe it works better in our governments, and we believe it works better in our schools.
And then I'm looking at page 124 of your study, and I'll just read pretty much the last.
I'm not sure we all have exactly the same.
Well, and you know what? It's Bartlett's.
Okay.
It's Bartlett's. But it says, well, I'll go ahead and read it. Analysis of pertinent case law, the spirit and essence of Chapter 1, and the history of past practices regarding school facility transfer in Shelby County support the right of a Bartlett Municipal School District to receive, transfer, and control of the school facilities now located within the boundaries, and to have that transfer occur without the imposition of costs with respect to those facilities. But the part that I want to emphasize, it goes on to say, all of which were built with funds provided by all Shelby County residents. So in essence, a Bartlett school district, which if it were 9,000 students, all Shelby County residents built the schools, but a municipal school district would be excluding 141,000, where all Shelby County residents built those. And so I go on to say, Shelby County has 900, according to the 2000 census, 927,000 residents, 54,000, which is 6%, live in Bartlett, 11,000, which is 1.24, live in Arlington, 4.74, which is 44,000 in Collierville, 38,000 in Germantown. So the creation of any municipal school district, and by definition, in the strictest interpretation, a municipal school district only educates those children within those city limits. And so we still are talking about the proposition of something that was built, and your study states this, were funds provided by all Shelby County residents. We would be making these, what was for the public good, the exclusive use of those who happen to live in those municipalities.
Well, you and I have debated this through the press for several weeks now, and your position hasn't changed, and neither has mine. You're exactly right. We are all county residents. And you have oft quoted the 6% of the population. Well, we'll only have 4% of the buildings, so we're still losing out. We're still giving you more schools than we're getting compared to what we pay. We pay, outside of the city of Memphis, approximately 40% of the educational funding.
But Mayor, you only represent Bartlett.
Mr. Jones, let's let Mr. McDonald finish this answer, and then if you would like to ask another question.
Well, I'm not sure, why the objection. We're looking at an overall piece, and so if we have 6%, and if we're paying in our fair share plus towards education in general, there's several different ways to look at it. You're saying every school Memphis paid 60% of, and everybody else paid 40% of. There's another way to look at it. You take the whole schools and say, okay, 60% of them are yours, 40% of them are theirs. There's a whole lot of ways to cut that piece of pie. The fact is, you said it. It's for public good, and that's exactly what we intend to use it for.
But just those who live in Bartlett, though?
In those particular schools, okay. But you should remember, I would encourage you to visit municipal schools throughout Tennessee. It would be a real eye-opener for you if you would go and see that, in fact, they educate children from outside of their borders. Most of them get paid tuition to do that. by fellow county residents in school buildings that are paid for by the entire county. So I think I would encourage you to look at the way it's run throughout the state, and maybe you would understand our point of view better.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wisman, you...
I passed.
Okay. Another question? Ms. Bradshaw?
Thank you. Mayor Joyner, you stated that you all were moving forward with hiring a superintendent, having school board elections in November of this year. Under what law are you all allowed to have school board elections take place for a municipality that currently, based on my interpretation under Norris Todd, can't go into effect until 2013?
Yes, ma'am. Under what law are we not
I'm just asking
allowed to do that? I don't know the answer to your question. Do you know the answer to mine?
So the hiring of a superintendent is an act of a municipal school district, which says the district actually exists.
We would propose, I would propose, I can only speak for myself, I would propose that we are allowed to prepare for operations of a school district in 2013. And the preparation of that would include election of school board members and the hiring of the superintendent. Now, the cities would pay for those out of their general funds until there is actually the establishment, and our establishment of that would be effective the 2013. So we view it as being allowed to prepare just as this TPC is allowed to prepare for the merge system in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Are other hands that are up that have not asked a question yet? I'm going to get to Mr. Padgett, but right now I'll go to Dr. Green.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I certainly enjoy sitting on this commission with you and having an opportunity to engage in productive exchange. I did indeed raise a question in the executive session, and I'm pleased to indicate here that my question has been answered, and I share with you the answer that I've received so you can correct me if I err. The reason that you're interested in municipal school district would be to gain local control, to foster a system of accountability, and to foster the neighborhood concept, and to provide an opportunity for residents in the municipalities to have a quality education. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would like to assure you as one member of this commission that I will be making every effort to make sure that these concepts are incorporated in any plan that comes forward, and I would beg you to delay your process until the plan is available to you.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Mr. Padgett, you had a question?
Mayor Goldsworthy, I heard your consultants report the night at GPAC, and he talked about two things. He talked about the need to not be so small that you're not diverse. And then he discussed something that was a bit foreign to me, cooperative agreements. And he said that those would be necessary. How has he explained cooperative agreements to you all?
I think all of us share the same explanation because to one degree or another they are recommended within all of our plans. The one specifically that our consultants were referring to had to do with the education of children who currently attend schools in Germantown but do not reside in the city of Germantown. And very clearly, we have a very inclusive student enrollment across our 8 schools at this time. And it would be highly desirable for us, for a lot of really great reasons, to maintain that diversity as well as to provide student stability as we go forward. But that would require agreements between the future school board of the unified district as well as our current school board. We would just truly hope that in the interest of what's good for the kids, stability, the ability of families to count on where they've landed in terms of their expectations of where they're going to go to school and such, that could allow them to move through the education of their children, K through 8. And those cooperative education agreements, sometimes they involve providing for the education of students from outside. It may involve partnering with another district on services, anything from transportation to special ed to food service to whatever. The state law allows that, and those are in place in other communities as well. In fact, exist today between the former Shelby County school system and the Memphis City schools. So we think that if we remain grounded in what's good for the kids, we adults should be able to figure out a way in which we can assure the stability and the experiences, particularly in our case, that are so valuable from a diverse student population.
Mayor Luttrell, you had a question?
My question is really, it may be more of a comment than a question, but it's really directed to all of you. Mayor McDonald may follow it a little bit closer since he is a member of our transition planning committee, and several of you have visited at various events that we've had, listening tours and then here. So you're very much aware of the complexity of the TPC mission. We're looking at everything from logistics to organization to academics. Well, you know what it is. It's a very complex process. I haven't heard any of you talk about a transition process in your communities. And I trust that maybe it goes without saying that I would strongly encourage you that if you're going this route, that you do have a transition plan similar to what we have seen with our TPC that really vets out all of these areas that have to do with logistics, transportation, food services, all of that, benefits for your employees, just a broad range of things that I think should be considered. Also, it appears that your timeline is really geared toward having your municipal districts on the day that we have a unified district. Is the problem so compelling that you have to hit that September 2013 deadline for your municipal districts? Or could that be something that's delayed for a year so that you do have the benefit of the information that's coming out of this committee, that you do have the opportunity to transition and vet out these questions that are very complex as far as financing? I've read the Bartlett report. I haven't read the other reports, but I think the one thing that really troubles me about the report is I just don't think you can do it on a 15-cent sales tax and 15-cent property tax. That just troubles me. And and Mayor McDonald and I have talked a little bit about this, but maybe you can. If you can do it, then goodness, good luck. But that's the one piece that troubles me, and I just would like to see, I guess, a little bit more definition on that piece. But that said, please, for the benefit of your constituents, which I know all of you are very concerned about that, they deserve to have as many answers as they can before they step into this. And is it absolutely necessary to implement the municipal districts September 2013?
Dr. Prescott, could I follow up just a second? I got two things.
Sure.
First one is that what Collierville's had to do, what I've had to do is rely on the experts to give us that information. And we spent money to hire the consultants who did the feasibility study for us and did the financial study for us. And based on the information that they've given us using the BEP formula that everyone uses, the revenue is there for us to do that. So I've had to defer to them for the transition planning. We'll certainly do that, but again, in Collierville, I'm going to need to rely on experts in that, that will help guide us through that process, and that's kind of my idea about the way that we would intend to tackle that. Then I wanted to do a follow-up and maybe apologize to Ms. Bradshaw. I didn't mean to give you a short answer on that, but I knew I had read that in this book from the consultants, and it actually comes from a State Board of Education Rule 0520-1-8, and it says that no city school system shall be created or reactivated for the purpose of operating a system of public schools unless such school system shall, and the first thing under that is employ a full-time superintendent who shall meet the legal and regulatory requirements for the county and the city superintendent. So that, I would say, gives us that authority to go forward and to hire that superintendent.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Johnson. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Wisman. Oh, Mayor Gosworth.
If I can respond to Mayor Luttrell's comments or questions. One of the things that we have already done is to enter into conversations very seriously with a number of people in our community who have more than a little bit of expertise in education as well as the business community. And we would envision creating not a transition planning commission, because we're not transitioning, but a district development group that will help us in the same way that you are all bringing your expertise to the discussion, to help us look at the model that is presented in our report from our consultants, and then to put a lot of meat on its bones, not usurping the eventual role of the school board, but certainly moving in a direction that helps our community understand our vision and our expectations, so that when the school board is elected, it is not sitting there having to go from ground zero. And I think we and probably some of the other communities have also retained our consultants on an ongoing basis to help us in the evaluation of exactly what we have to do next and progressively as we move forward, so we are not just going to kind of sit there and wait for folks elected later to figure out the details. And I think to the whole point of the issue of waiting, people in our communities are really expecting that they will be able to comfortably make a decision about the future of their children's education sooner rather than later. The delay of the formation of municipal districts until some date, 1-2 years after August 13, I think will have caused them to go ahead and address their uncertainties by making decisions to leave public education. And that, I think, would be a loss to all of our communities. While I certainly respect the right of every parent to make a decision on what form of education works best for their child in their circumstances, without really great public education available to everyone, a responsibility of all of us, what we do as a community and as a nation simply cannot move forward in the way that it needs to. And I think it's very realistic to think, I believe, and I would certainly stand corrected, that the Shelby County schools saw an exodus of a number of students just during this discussion over the last year. Okay. And it's unfortunate that people move so quickly to make that decision. I do not think everybody in our community will wait and see what happens in August of 2013 before they make a decision about where their kids will be educated.
If I could just add to that, I think some will wait if they feel like we're making movement in what they see as the right direction. But if we're doing nothing, I don't think they'll wait. I think if we have a referendum and we're moving towards our own schools, they're going to wait. And I talk about that specifically because we've had at least one individual say they will file a lawsuit. So if we wait until 2013 and then that person files that lawsuit, we've got to wait further. So if we go ahead and do those things so that that gentleman can file his lawsuit, then we'll know what harm he's saying is going to be done. We can deal with the legal issues of that and move forward.
Dr. Johnson?
To the distinguished mayors, thank you for allowing me to work with you for many years. We have an idea of the quality that you're looking for. Mayor, I would hope that you would ask that person to, rather than spend that money in litigation, to put it into instruction so we can improve all the schools. The question, I'm sure that you're planning, doing comprehensive planning, but throughout the district there are some children with special needs that cost as much as $300,000 per child. You don't always know how many of them you have. There are people who move in and out. And my question simply is this. I'd like to add that the TPC is planning for all children the kind of quality that you're talking about, plus adding world-class kinds of best practices as well. So just for the record, that is being done. But what I'd like to know, in your planning, have you considered these children with special needs who are extremely high cost, and we don't always know who they are? We are mandated to serve them, and rightfully so. And the funds, the federal laws that mandate them certainly do not provide the 40%.
Right. In our report on page 96, it talks about the expenditure in the Bartlett plan of $5,308,000 for special education needs. And many of the things that a child who would need $300,000 worth of additional funding is funded by federal government. So, according to Dr. Mitchell, we've taken into consideration the special school students that are in our area now, right now, and this would be adequate to serve them.
I beg to differ, Mayor. The federal government does not pay that excess cost, not all of it, and that's the reason.
It's not all of it. They pay a substantial amount of it.
Actually, Mayor McDonald, that's not quite true, because the original mandate in 1976, when IDEA was passed, was that the federal government would cover up to 40% of the additional cost for special needs services, and we have yet to see that number crest over 20%, and now we're down in the mid-teens. So just to clarify the record, the federal government does not come anywhere close to covering the majority of the cost of that.
If I may add, though, to the discussion, one of the things that our consultants did was not to simply take number of students and divide existing costs in the systems to get an average and use a multiplier. They looked very specifically at the anticipated students, where they lived, and any characterization that indicates something outside average or the norm. So we believe, we have confidence that the numbers provided, although nobody has a crystal ball on any of this, but that our plans do anticipate the adequate and appropriate attention to special needs students. And it's always been clear, and it's been interesting from our communities, had questions about that, what we're going to continue and what we're going to drop. And we say, when it comes to all students, we expect to certainly match and hopefully exceed what they are now currently receiving, and that includes special needs.
Dr. Johnson?
I assure you, I was not questioning the consultants. That's not my point. I just want to know if the comprehensive planning included those children.
Other people? Mr. Jones, one more question. I'm going to go to Ms. Richards.
Okay. Well, I'll yield to Ms. Richards.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. It was stated earlier that it was funding driving special school districts and not local control. Was there anything that prevented the municipalities from raising the sales tax or the 15-cent property tax rate in order to supplement the funding for schools in Bartlett, Arlington, or Colleyville prior to this?
Historically, and I will admit I have more history than some of the rest of the mayors, one of the reservations that the municipalities had always held about making direct contributions from their general funds to support their local schools is that that's not where the money would end up. It would be part of an entire pool, whether it was the Shelby County Schools or a special school district. And it's one of those things in which asking the people within a community to generate tax dollars that would then directly go to benefit a lot of kids as opposed to the kids in their schools, that's usually not a popular thing to do. Nevertheless, although we did not consider sales tax for that purpose individually as communities or across the entire group of communities served by the Shelby County Schools, each of us in many ways have been very supportive of the schools. And I think one of the things that is sometimes overlooked is that Shelby County Schools always operated on a lean and mean budget. Large schools, often what we parents would consider no frills. And the result of that is that city government in some places stepped in to make up some differences, simply kind of the in-kind thing. We made a deal with Shelby County Schools a year or so ago that if we could use some facilities for after-school programs, then we would mow their yards during the summer because we were mowing the parks next to it. I think were a lot of informal agreements about that. And then there's the manner in which our parents have caused great things to happen in our schools, particularly when it comes to extracurricular. And that's been everything from putting together and supporting wonderful band programs, athletic programs. I think we certainly know the history of suburban schools and their ability to do great things. Well, it didn't happen because it came out of the school board's budget. And so I think that that's a clear measure of the willingness of people in our communities to support their schools, but they also like to feel that their efforts, their dollars, whether they're voluntary or tax dollars, are being spent in places that they can see.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Richard?
I really appreciate y'all coming out to talk to us tonight, and I want to tell both Mayor Weissman and Mayor McDonald I was truly moved by the responsiveness of the constituents who appeared at your high schools where I conducted this session to listen to the constituents. I am a lawyer, and the good news for me is I don't represent anybody in this room. The bad news for you is that I think you're right, Mayor McDonald. The likelihood of you proceeding without the implementation of a lawsuit against one or more of your municipalities is remote. And I'm going to give you a little unpaid advice, and it'll probably make me considerably unpopular with both the people who are supporters of municipal school districts here and those who are opposed to it. But the reality of it is you're proceeding under a brand new law, Norris-Todd. And while you might want to discount Ms. Bradshaw's comments, if you read the wording of that act, it says, from and after the date that a charter transfer becomes effective, which will be August of 2013, the present law prohibitions against the creation of new municipal school districts and special school districts will not apply in the county where the transfer occurred. So I'm just teeing up for you what is probably the first of what will be many challenges. I also note to you that law talks about creation of new municipal school districts. And Mayor McDonald, while you may have gone and seen lots of municipal school districts, there ain't a single one of the ones you've seen that was created under Norris-Todd. And the problem that I see with your consultants' work, and I am always skeptical of consultants' reports that have 44 pages of legal rationale in them, is that they noted to you the problem of the Constitution